It was quiet in the sheds at Nafford. An engine was resting in the shed after a hard day's work. This engine was called Molly. She was a tender engine with the same wheel configuration as Edward. She was painted yellow with red stripes, which wasn't common to see on an engine. While she is kind and was a big sister to some, she was very sensitive and shy, either being embarrassed or upset from the conflict and would steam away from it. As she was resting, Douglas came backing into the shed, grumbling under his breath. He had met a certain blue diesel from the mainland, and of course, was very rude towards him.
That muckle spam can,
he grumbled to the other engines.
He thinks he has the audacity to call me an old teapot. I'll show him.
Molly didn't like seeing her friends get upset.
Calm down, Douglas. While I don't agree with what he said, you shouldn't keep grumbling about it.
What do you know? You haven't even met him before.
Yes, I know. But if you keep thinking about him, it's not going to help you.
Well, yes, I do know that, but I do want to show him a thing or two.
Douglas, you're getting quite old for this type of behavior. Try taking it slow for...
Well, at least I wasn't a joke when I first arrived,
snapped Douglas as he reversed into the back of the shed, leaving Molly outside with her feelings crushed. She didn't mean to upset him further, but when he said that brought some memories when she first arrived on the island. Just then, the fat controller came up to her.
Molly, I need you to take a train to a station on the mainland. It's waiting at Kronk.
Yes, sir,
came a weak reply, and set off to Kronk Station. Soon, Molly had collected her train and was now puffing through the nighttime sky towards the mainland. But she still felt sad. She only wanted to help Douglas, but it only upset him even more. And what he said was uncalled for as well. Soon she arrived at the station and shunted away her train into the yards. As she was doing this, Diesels eyed her with disgust and growled at her. Molly felt even more upset as she shunted her trucks into a siding. She was about to leave, but the yard manager came up to her crew.
The points leading out of the yards are jammed. They can't be fixed until morning.
Sorry, old girl. Looks like we have to sleep here tonight. Molly's heart sank as she went to find a shed to sleep in. To get away from the conflict, she found an old shed in a disused part of the yard. The shed was covered in ivy and the roof was full of holes, but it was much better than sleeping with rude and snarling Diesels. Her crew said goodbye and went to find a place to sleep for the night. Soon she was all alone. Molly couldn't help feel that something wasn't right, but she was very tired and closed her eyes. She wasn't asleep for long, however, as she woke up to hear the sound of chuffing nearby.
Who's there?
She called out, but no one replied. Then, coming round the bend, came an outline of a tender coming towards her. Then came the owner of the tender as it backed down into the shed next to her. The engine was painted black with red and white lining. It looked brand new as the paint shone bright in the clear night sky. The engine spoke up.
Why, hello there. I see you're one of my sisters.
Sister?
Molly said, confused. This engine looked like her, but her boiler was bigger, her smoke box was extended, and her tender was much more bigger than hers.
Me and my other siblings had been rebuilt. They were planning to rebuild you before you ran away.
Molly gulped. It brought back some memories from her past, where she had heard about the rebuilds of her kind and had escaped before she was rebuilt. She hid in a shed for a long time until she was found by the fat controller.
I'm sorry.
It's all right. It was probably for the best.
What do you mean?
Oh, it's hard to explain, really. But as the years went on, the older engines started getting replaced by newer engines over the years.
But where do they go after they get replaced?
It doesn't really matter. What I want to know is why you look so downcast.
Molly explained about what happened earlier.
Ah, I see. Now, I can understand where he's coming from, but at the same time, he just had a bad day. Yes, you did your best to help him, but at the same time, you could have told him to talk to the controller about it.
You do got a point, but I still shouldn't give him that remark about him being old.
Now, I understand why you gave him that remark. He's getting old, but so are you, little sister. You are very kind towards engines, yet you're still shy and sensitive, and it's very understandable. This Douglas, on the other hand, should have controlled his temper and not used that remark at you. Now, if he would say sorry, how would you feel?
I would happily forgive him. While he does get angry when someone upsets him, but at the same time he's still very sorry when he takes it out on someone.
Exactly. Oh dear, it's nearly time for my train. It was nice seeing you again, Molly. And remember what I said.
Wait, do you have a name?
I don't, unfortunately. But I do have a number.
What is it?
8783.
Molly's eyes widened when she heard that number, but before she could say anything, the engine puffed out of the shed and rounded the bend until she was out of sight. Molly was all alone again, but couldn't help but think about the engine she just encountered and what she said. Molly decided it was best to think about it in the morning, and soon she went back to sleep. The next morning, Molly was waiting at the station. She had to wait for a goods train to pass by. While she was waiting, Molly heard the sound of chuffing coming into the station. Rolling into the platform beside her was a small tender engine. He was painted black and had no lining, and he looked like Douglas, but was smaller than him.
Why, hello there. I suppose we've never met before. I don't have a name, just a number. 1020.
Molly.
Ah, Molly. It's very nice to meet you. And I see you're a soda engine, judging by the color you're wearing. May I say, that yellow looks very invigorating, yes.
Molly smiled.
Thank you. It's very nice to meet you too. Aren't you the engine Toby helped?
Why, yes. That was so long ago. How is he doing, by the way?
He's fine. He works on Thomas's line.
Well, that's great to hear. Though I do have a question. What are you doing all the way out here?
Had to take a train here, but the points were jammed when I had to leave, so I had to sleep in the old shed.
I suppose the diesels didn't give you the warmest of welcome.
No, they didn't.
Well, I'm sorry you had to go through that. If I were you, I would have just ignored their blasphemous banter.
But at least I had someone to talk to before she left for the train.
Pray tell, who did you talk to?
It was a rebuilt sister of mine. Her number was 8783.
As she finished, 1020 took a deep sigh.
Oh dear. Perhaps her spirit is still around after all.
What do you mean?
My dear Molly, what you saw last night was your sister's spirit.
What?
After she was scrapped, rumors had arisen about a phantom engine roaming the rails at night, looking for an engine to cheer up. At first, I didn't believe it, but from what I heard from you just now, well, it's safe to say I've changed my mind completely.
Molly's boiler nearly went dry with fright. All this time, she had encountered an engine, a ghost engine of all things. Surely 1020 was making it all up.
You're pulling my wheel, right? Please don't tell me I really did see a ghost.
I'm afraid you did, Molly. I suppose she just wanted to cheer you up when she saw you all downcast. There was no malice in that action, I assure you.
Molly didn't know what to say. Just then, the signal changed, and it was time for 1020 to leave.
Oh, that's my signal. I must head back to my heritage line. It was nice chatting with you, Molly, and I hope to see you anon.
And And with that, 1020 left the station and chuffed away, leaving Molly behind. It was midday when she returned to Sodor. As she puffed down the line, she couldn't help but think about the events that happened on that night. It was all too confusing for her. When she arrived at Nafford Yards, she saw Douglas taking on coal. She had to take on water, and the tower was on the other track beside him. Douglas noticed her coming up beside him.
I'm sorry for what I said last night. It was just that I was so upset about what Spamcam said about me being old. I just lost my temper.
It's alright. I forgive you. And I'm sorry for giving you that remark.
It doesn't matter, Molly. It's all over now. Besides, when he left for your train, Topper noticed that I was cross, and I told him everything. He wasn't pleased with me when I made that remark about you, but he did have stern words with Spamcam along with his controller. So you look rather skittish. What's wrong?
Well, how am I going to explain this to you?
I'm willing to listen. Just tell me what you have to say.
Molly took a deep breath and told Douglas everything about what happened on the main line. When she finished, Douglas looked rather confused.
You sure you took on some contaminated coal this morning?
No, I didn't.
But then, why was it a coincidence that I just apologised to you just now?
It does seem like it. She did seem to know a few things.
Molly stopped in her tracks when she realized what she had just said.
Do you think her spirit was on Soto during our talk last night?
Not another word was said. Both engines didn't know what to say. Molly is still shy and sensitive, but still very kind no matter the less. But what happened that night, where she had encountered one of her sisters, left a scar in her mind. I think the spirit of 8783 would remain with Molly for the rest of her life. Don't you?